A while ago, Aya was blessed amongst women because it was flanked by the left and right by women. Now, I am blessed amongst men because I have two gentlemen here in the studio with me. Aya is here, and Idahosa Osamhanze, Director, Research and Policy, Africa Development Studies Center, ADSC, is also here. Good morning, sir.
Blessing, good morning.
Blessed are you among men.
Amongst men. Okay, let's not try to rub it in that today our focus will be on women. So I had to just let the men know that we're in this together. Together, we will champion the cause for empowerment of women.
I hope there is no intention for blackmails.
No one is going to blackmail anybody. Even if I'm wearing black, I do not intend to blackmail anybody. Let's look at the news. So, President Bola Tinubu has directed that government officials without proof of their need to attend this year's United Nations General Assembly, UNGA, in New York will not be allowed to travel. Now, he's also ordered the freezing of visa processing for such officials and instructed that only those on the approved protocol list will be accredited. This is part of effort to reduce government spending. How do you see this move, Idahosa?
Well, I think it's a very important move because also reading the mood of the nation, I think it's the right thing to do. Anyhow, we can cut down on excesses, which of course a lot of people have spoken to in the past, that the biggest challenge that we face as a nation is that the cost of governance is enormous in Nigeria. And because we are giving so much, we really don't have enough to build critical infrastructure that actually will transform the nation. And I think for me, this directive, it should not just be a one-off directive. It should be something that, of course, should last the lifetime of this administration, that anyhow we can call down on waste. The government should make sure that this is done. And I also love yesterday when, of course, he was given the marching order, that, of course, what people are expecting from this government is leadership. And there are three basic characteristics a leader should have. That speaks to competence, that speaks to character and compassion. Now, people cannot be suffering on the street trying to tighten their belt, and then the government is engaging itself in frivolous travels. So that expenses will also go a long way in reducing and let people see that the government really is showing compassion, and he sees that also is tightening its belt, just as the citizens themselves tighten their belts.
Yes. Like we do know that there are two parts of the equation for growth in any economy. One is to increase revenue, and the other is to reduce expenses. If you are making efforts to increase revenue and you are not reducing expenses, unnecessary expenses in particular, it will be a zero-sum game, like they say. There was an allegation in the past, I think it was around, it was in 1994, the USA 94, of a government official that not only went to, for that particular competition with his entire family, even with their house help and some other assistants there, on the bill of government. It was an allegation, it was not confirmed, but if that was true, then we are happy to see a day like today where the body language of the man at the helm of affairs is that, hey, no more business as usual. We are now in the era of business unusual. And this is coming from the presidency. Like you said, it has to be, if it is possible, to make it a policy entrenchment, one way or the other. I think we'll go far, because when you ask people that, okay, endure with us as a government, the times are hard, they must see you being part of that particular understanding. And then how do you show understanding otherwise, if not for you to, cut down on unnecessary expenses and ensure that we tighten our purse as a nation, because the amount of money we waste essentially on avoidable expenses like undue travels is very huge.
Yeah, I think it should go widespread. And I like the fact that the president has said those without proof of their need to travel. So it must be as a result of necessity if you are to embark on this trip. And I think it should go to all other trips and all other expenses. Yeah, the belt is tight enough, so for the citizens, the government should do their own part of the belt tightening. Now, the government aims to employ a strategy to leverage AI for economic diversification, inclusive growth, and sustainable development. Now, to make this happen, the federal government is inviting top researchers of Nigerian descent globally to contribute to the development of a national artificial intelligence strategy. So the Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, Dr. Bosun Tijani, has announced this initiative and is encouraging people to recommend qualified researchers. People to recommend qualified researchers of Nigerian descent. That's like tapping from the brains that have left this country, that are now in diaspora, and even those that are here.
Yes, essentially for me, when there is brain drain, like we say, it has one inherent potential. The brains that are drained elsewhere don't just go there to close their brain or to shut down their brains. They are open to more influence, they are open to more knowledge, they are open to more technology. And the more we have a Bosun Tijani speaking, this is a homegrown tech wizard, as I would like to call him, at the helm of affairs. It is only natural for him to know the fact that, okay, I know my peers, I know those that are ahead of me, and they are scattered around the world. Our contributions in the world are not small as a country. We know of Philip Emeagwali, who is called Africa's Bill Gates, who is doing wonders over there. And some other Nigerians have a lot of patents in electronics and computer applications. So if we can just have a policy or a mechanism by which we aggregate all their thinking, and we have a strategy, an AI strategy, which is very important because it is called intentional implementation or deployment of technology. If we are not intentional at the national level, we'll just be doing haphazardly, and whatever is not planned doesn't really get well done. So to Bosun Tijani, I say kudos, and we can only hope that this goes beyond just making pronouncement, that all machineries are put in place to ensure effective implementation. That's the way I see it.
Delsa, what's your take?
Well, it's easy to speak and say, okay, you have a direction. But like I said, the enabling environment had to be put in place because it's not just somebody to come, because the level of patriotism as we speak in Nigeria is very low. Whether people will be able to heed this call is another ball game altogether. I remember some years ago, I was having a conversation with late Ike Emeagwali, and he was talking of the attempt by the then Abacha regime to bring Philip to come to Nigeria, and it was futile. And the reason was simple, because he was so much engaged that he has no time to travel. I don't know how many times that Philip Emeagwali since then had come to Nigeria. You see, the real challenge is that these people are engaged. They're given tools to work. Do we have what it takes to galvanize and mobilize those people that we're looking at that will come to make the difference? That is what we look at government should be able to put in place and say, well, there's a conducive atmosphere at home. We must create the sense of adequate security, which of course a lot of people are afraid to come home. So all these things, we have to create that ecosystem that will make people to come. And then of course government must also demonstrate some level of sincerity so that people will not come back home and they suffer. I remember some years in the 80s when Mbakwe asked some people from Imo State to come and develop Imo, and then of course a lot of them later on started to complain and said we came and then we left everything that was rosy, and here we are to face a very hard fate. So these are issues. While we're speaking, we must also be really with genuine intention to see that we want to see things work. And I do hope that government will put enough resources in place to be able to protect those who want to come and contribute to the growth of Nigeria. We're all Nigerians. The country belongs to all of us. no matter how much we stay in America, we may have secondary citizenship, but it cannot be our birth citizenship.
Yeah, that's an appeal for more patriotism. And I think a kind of synergy would even work where, because we have lots of tech experts here that are still in Nigeria. So if it can be like a thing where they work with those who are there, they don't necessarily have to come here, maybe pass on the research and then the ones here have to implement. That could work, and we'll just be on our way to...
After all, Shagamu guys, they've started to build
robots.
Humanoids. So,
and they didn't have to travel outside the shores of Nigeria to acquire that knowledge. Yes. So I think transfer of knowledge with technology is very possible from wherever anyone is located. But first, those who have this knowledge, who were outside of the shores of this country, should be patriotic enough to key into this project. Now, moving to matters of aviation, Malawi, I beg your pardon, the European Union is considering supporting a clean jet fuel project in Africa through its Global Gateway Infrastructure Fund. Now, the fund aims to provide sustainable aviation fuel, SAF, that is environmentally friendly fuel, alternatives for airplanes. So these fuels can be produced from various sources like crops. The question is, would these have any significant impact towards reducing the cost of airfares at the end of the day, or it's just about the environment, Idahosa?
I think it's more about the environment. It hasn't to do with, in short, it can be more costly.
I was about saying that.
Yes, so it's not going to be as cheap as the natural resource we see on the ground. It's going to likely to be much more expensive. But my real worry is not really about the cost and how it drags down on the environment. It's also to see, and we spoke to this about, I think it was last week, where we're talking about neocolonialism, how the West always sit down to calculate how to take money from our purses. I hope it's not another means of taking resources from the pockets of Africa.
They've pledged to allocate half of their...
Who is going to produce?
They've pledged to, the EU has pledged to allocate half of its $324 billion infrastructure plan to Africa.
Yes, that's what we're saying. These infrastructures are built to produce this fuel. They're not giving it to Africa for free.
No,
nothing is free. What's in it for them?
No.
That's another question.
We may not be able to sit at this table and say with specificity what is in it for them, really. But what Idahosa was talking about that I seem to agree with is that, yes, behind some moves at that level, there might be some hidden agendas, which may not really be to harm you, but to make as much as they can make for themselves. They are the ones always sitting down and determining where next to go. They are the ones scanning the horizon for the rest of the world and saying, okay, this is where we should go. Meanwhile, with all the talk of having a sustainable energy source, at some point last year or thereabout, they backtracked on that. They still, in some parts of Europe, they still went for fossil fuel. And some people were like, okay, it appears you can press the start button and the pause button at will based on your conveniences. Then this calls for global discussion. We almost sit at a particular table and discuss the real issues and see that everybody's interest is taken care of. Yes, on the surface, it appears, okay, this is good for the entire world. Let's have a cleaner, jet fuel and so on and so forth. But then it is crop-based, and Africa is purely agrarian at this point in time. And at the end of the day, it is still our resources that will still be taken. But then, this is not to say no to this initiative. It is for our governments in Africa to, step up conversation and come to that table of negotiation with clarity. If we know better, we do better. That's what they say. But if you go there without clarity, trust me, you can be taken advantage of. This has happened in the past. It should not happen in the future and in the present. That's just my own take on that.
I think you are very correct. We need to be very, very sensitive and conscious to some of the things that we're doing. The real issue why highlighting this point is to see that, yes, you promise us a lot of goodies, and we're also thinking that Africans should also be pioneering some research that, of course, we can also ship and sell to Europe. It should always not be the other way around.
All right, now let's take a look again at something that is happening in Nigeria. The Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, has announced plans to employ additional staff in addition to the over 1,200 individuals it said it has employed to operate the country's emergency communication center. Now, these centers will facilitate quick communication with response agencies such as the police, the fire agencies, medical services through the toll-free number 112 to ensure timely and efficient assistance during emergencies. Currently, it's operational. The ECCs, the emergency communication centers, are currently operational in 27 state capitals, and the Commission aims to have 31 centers in total, with 8 more under construction, and they are set to become fully operational by 2024. So having emergency communication centers, is it should it be just the NCC wanting to have toll centers that control this communication, or there should also be a plan on the other end that when the communication is established, the capacity to respond is also there? Idahosa.
Yeah, I think it's a commendable move by the NCC to recruit men to man the emergency center, and I think this is one of the things that the nation has lacked for a very long time, because other places you go, when the toll is died, then there's a response. And I think that's working quite well in Lagos. On several occasions where those numbers are called in Lagos, you see people come, whether it's fire, whether it's police, whether it's last man. Once you make that call to the number, people are right there on the scene. And I think it's important that this be made to spread across the country, so that when people have emergencies, people can have quick response, numbers to call and dial, and then of course communication can spread easily. And apart from that, of course, 1,000 people have been taken off street. So the employment
1,200
is getting better.
Yes, and they still want to take on more.
And the fact is that, you see, the speed of response to emergencies is a function of the smoothness of communication. Trust me, most of the times, or let me say half of the times, people who are trapped in a situation fail to get rescued because there is no proper communication, or when you dial, something is hanging at the other end. Let's not forget the Titanic sinking that was mentioned, that we read about, when a change in code from SOS to, I've forgotten the code now, caused a lot of delay. So if we have more centers for communication across the state of the Federation, essentially we are able to, smoothen communication. And if you can reach rescue centers early enough, like you said, apart from the communication, what other, the other arm of the response is okay, the capacity.
The services.
That will be taken care of by concerned agencies. But on the part of NCC, they just want to ensure that they play their own part and know that, okay, you are not stranded because you can't communicate with the necessary, rescue center. And once that is taken care of, I want to assume or believe the fact that other people will do their own bit. At the end of the day, we are all work in progress. Even this country is work in progress. So it's a good stride in the right direction. That's just it.
Yeah, and I like the fact that it's a uniform toll-free number, 112, as you have in other climes, 911, and so you just know that's an emergency number. So when you dial 112 in case of emergency, that connects you to the particular service that you want, and then you provide the information. So we also hope that it's not just NCC who's ensuring that people who are in need of emergency services get the service, but capacity is built on the other end for these emergency responders, so that you don't call and then for fire service you're told there is no water, or you're told that there's no fuel in the vehicle to get to where you are. So these are the areas that we should begin to tie the knots and ensure that everything goes smoothly. It's a welcome development, and we say thumbs up to the NCC. For those who are in need of job, you just heard that there's vacancies somewhere.
Hey, blessing, be careful. 1,200 out of how many millions of unemployed
you just have
Nigeria?
to shoot your shot. You can't just...
You must be uniquely qualified to take up those jobs. Well, you can try, really. Shoot your shot.
Yeah, shoot your shot. Do not just conclude and say, oh, they're taking already or the space is already filled up, okay?